I'm laughing.
We know. Take your time. They all paid a lot of money, though. When you think about how much time has gone by while we're just messing around over here. Can you help us get this wrinkle out of this rug? You pull that way. You pull that way. Pull on the edge of that rug, will you? Not you. You're not going to help us?
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yeah, we're talking to you. Not you. Not you. Pull on that.
I'm wondering if I should let go of the question I had and just speak it right now.
Whatever's on your mind, something's all wadded up in you. So let's talk about it if you want to. You raised your hand. We saw it. We saw it.
Well,
with Esther's eyes.
I had a question about thoughts. So I read that 30 to 50% of people don't have an inner monologue. And I've been wanting to ask you about that.
We disagree.
I agree. I disagree too.
But rather than protesting that, we'd like to advocate that 100% of you are transmitting and receiving mechanisms, and you've got a whole lot more going on, and you're translating a lot of that into a continuous stream of thought. But sometimes you don't feel like you want to say what's on your mind because you're worried about how it will be received, and that's what's going on here. In other words, there's a lot you'd like to talk about, but you've been surrounded by humans who have been observing you and, from your perspective, judging what's coming out of you, and so you've sort of deliberately stifled that inner monologue. You've turned it into an inner monologue. The reason that people say you have no inner monologue is because you're not letting your inner monologue come out to their outer monologue so that they can hear it with their outer ears. You know? So what? So what is it that you feel and want to talk about or think about that you don't want to talk about? If it has something to do with past, your inner being is not really encouraging you to activate it into the now. Do any of you ever feel like this? She's talking with infinite intelligence and she cannot find the question. And
well, you've been great so far. I guess I'm afraid to talk to people, and especially the people closest to me, because I'm not happy with what I've been doing with my life. And I worry about what they'll say.
We want to say everything to you all at once. You ready? But the most important thing that we want to say to you is that they're not as interested as you think they are. They're more interested in their life. But what you think about what they think has you all wadded up. And so if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would not try to get anybody to understand where we are, because nobody can really understand where you are. But we would calibrate to our inner being's point of view until we're standing in a sort of strong, steady place. And then from that place, we talk about what's going on. We'll ask you some questions and you don't have to answer any of them. But if one of them strikes you as something that you'd like to answer, then go ahead and answer. have you had a lot of criticism in your life experience from those around you? And do they seem like joyful people?
No.
So maybe their ideas suck. So we call that calibrating to humans. And here's the best way that we have ever found of explaining what's going on to you. So every thought you've ever thought, everybody else too, every thought you've ever thought exists within you as a vibrational possibility. It's like you're walking around with this bag of marbles that is magnetic in nature or electronic in nature. It's a technological marvel, really, because it can communicate with all the other marbles in all the other bags that all the other people are walking around with. So when you have a relationship or even a brief encounter with someone, what's active in your bag is the big deal. Like if you just had a fight with someone and then you got in traffic, you're going to attract other ornery drivers. And if there's anybody in the mood to flip somebody off, they're going to find you. You're going to hear horn honking and people are going to cut you off. In other words, those ornery bags of marbles are going to match up with what's active in your experience, which could lead you to feel taken advantage of or picked on, like you didn't deserve it. What? I'm just driving down the street, minding my own business. I signaled, I stopped, I did all the right things, but it doesn't matter what you're doing. It matters what you're offering vibrationally, because that's how you match up with people. So it doesn't feel fair to most humans, but we're going to explain something to you that you already know. You were born into environments with people already sort of set in their patterns of behavior. And you might want to say, well, what's up with that? Because I'm sure I didn't choose this on purpose, because it has not been fun. And we say, yeah, you did choose it on purpose, though, because you wanted the exposure to what you didn't want so you could launch rockets of what you did want. And you knew that you had a guidance system, and you knew that sooner or later, and for most people it's later, that you would figure out enough is enough of all of this, and that you just wouldn't put up with something that did not feel good for so long. And that's what causes people like you to turn more inward, because you believe that you can't trust them. And you know what? You can't. Or you can trust them to be as ornery as they've shown you that they are, or as negative as they've shown you. And of course, all of them aren't that way. But when some of them that are dominant really get your attention, it makes you attract more that are like that. And so even though you attract some of everything, it can dominantly feel like people are against you, when really no one has the power to get into your bag of marbles and cause any discord. Only you do. But when you see the way some people behave and you respond to how they're behaving, now your marbles are affected, and so then you get more of that. So that's why we are here having these conversations, because you all have been saying en masse, what's going on? I thought you said I came here to live a joyous life experience. And there are so many ornery people around me that are picking on me and others that I'm not having a very good time. And so we show up in a format that you can hear to say to you, you've got to decide what you're going to calibrate to. And you got two choices. You can calibrate to the peanut gallery, and there's a lot of good stuff in that peanut gallery. Or you can calibrate to your inner being, who 100% of the time knows who you are, why you're here, and where you are in relationship to where you want to be. Now, we know you've listened to us for a while. You know this. It makes sense to you. But what are you going to do about it? What are any of you going to do about it? If you're in a situation, maybe your boss doesn't appreciate you. Maybe you're not being paid anywhere near what you're worth. Maybe your kids are giving you a hard time, or your mate. Maybe it's coming from your parents or your neighbors, or maybe it's coming to you from the television. In other words, there's all kinds of abuse that is promulgated around this planet that is coming to you or that you're receiving. But what we want to do right here and now is we want to give you all of the responsibility for what part of that you let in. Because you're the only one who is letting it in or not. You're the only one that's calibrating toward what you want or toward what you don't want.
And what about within that? I was thinking of another example. So I get very good intuition, but sometimes I don't listen to it. Like the other day I was driving, did a U-turn. I was told, do not do a U-turn because you're going to get something stuck in your tire. I ignored it, did the U-turn, and sure enough, I blew my tire $565 later. But it took me to a woman that I was supposed to meet. So how do you...
Well, that's the sort of thing that we're talking about. But you could have met the woman without doing the U-turn and blowing the tire. Yeah. But does it matter? Or are you wanting the entertainment? Are you wanting the opportunity? Are you wanting the fun along the way? Are you wanting the path of least resistance? In other words, don't you often say, when you're wanting to meet someone, I want it to happen organically. I don't want it to be a setup that somebody else is setting up. I want it to just happen naturally. Well, a lot of what happens to you is because you are looking for things that way.
I do think that.
Yes.
I do think that. When I'm in situations, I think I heard it, I knew I wasn't supposed to do it, and yet I ran straight into it. And then I was like, well, I don't know what I expected out of that.
Well, the good news is it doesn't matter. It never matters. It never matters where you are. Because where you are is on your way to somewhere. It only matters where you're going. But if you spend a lot of time standing where you're standing mad because you've spent $560 on the tire, then you don't give yourself the opportunity to get as much benefit from it as fast as you can. You didn't do that, but what?
No, it's more the 3 hours of getting a tow truck and everything else that goes, the energy that gets, what I would say is wasted. Like, how do you see that everything's working out?
How was life wasted when you got to meet the tow truck driver? When you got to see that magnificent process, when you got to feel that things are working out. Really, friends, you did not say, this is a thing we want so much for you to hear. You didn't say, from your non-physical standpoint, I'll go, but I'm going to figure it out before I go, because I'm not going to blow tires, and I'm not going to forget to put the oil cap on. You didn't say any of that. You said, I'll go, and I'll figure it out. And isn't life about the figuring of it out? Isn't life about the new idea that emerged? How are you living life? If you didn't have anything to do, what would you do? Bumper sticker. If I didn't have anything to do, what would I do? Well, if I didn't have anything to do, you would be bored. But would you rather be bored or interested? Would you rather be bored or engaged? Would you rather be inactive or active? Would you rather sit by yourself or meet a tow truck driver or a cook in the kitchen? What is life if it's not the intertwining of vibrational frequencies and the discovery of things that you didn't expect? Isn't life about surprise and delight? And isn't it there for you everywhere when you get into this attitude of things? But what gives you shortage consciousness? There's not enough money. I don't want to spend the money on that tire. There's not enough time. I don't want to take the 3 hours that it took to get the tow truck and get there. What's this shortage consciousness? You are eternal beings.